Good afternoon. I am Stephanie Mandeville, NEA Rhode Island Communications Director. Today is October 14th, and it is our 24th episode of Ask Larry and Bob. And joining me today is NEARI President Larry Purtill. Hi, Larry.
Hi, Steph.
How are you today?
I'm good.
Good, good. Of course, there's just the two of us. Bob is not with us today. Sadly, his mom passed away over the weekend. So he is where he belongs, which is with his family. And I just want to make a point to say that our hearts are with him and our condolences with him and his family.
Oh, yeah. And, Karen and I got a chance to talk to him briefly last night and today. So, yes, he's where he belongs and helping take care of his dad and surrounded by his brothers and sisters. So, yes, and our condolences go out to Bob. His mom suffered a little bit the past couple of years. So, yes,
we know that
it's very difficult. Speaking for someone who's lost both their mom and dad, and it's been a long time now, it doesn't get any easier. So, yeah.
Well, I know that Mrs. Walsh began her career as a public school teacher in Pawtucket, and so we will carry on in her memory, especially today.
Yes.
So Larry, first I want to say I am wearing my Educators for Joe and Kamala shirt because today is the first day of early in-person voting. So if you did not get a mail ballot and you want to do in-person voting, you can do it. Go to your local board of canvassers, take your ID, wear a mask, and you can get your ballot and get the job done.
And if you have I know how busy everybody is, but if you have an extra hour or two and you want to make a few phone calls into battleground states that can make a huge difference, just go to our website and the information's there, because NEA has been doing a lot of work on the Biden campaign. And I know we've said it in the past, but this election is so critical. And just the few things I've been able to listen to about this hearing with the Supreme Court nominee the last couple of days, I mean, the right to collective bargaining, the rights of unions, the rights of women, the rights of minorities, the rights really for public education are all on the line on November 3rd. And we cannot not have Joe Biden and Kamala Harris as president and vice president.
No, we can't take anything for granted. And I want to go back to what you said about volunteering. Folks will train you. So you can go to our website, neari.org/2020. Even if you're not crazy about doing phone calls, which they're totally easy, and once you get into a rhythm, it's fine. But they are doing also a texting program. And so if you're not sure if you want to do the phone calls, do the texting. They walk you through it every step. You'll have a training, and you can have conversations with other members. And make sure that they make a plan to go vote and get to the polls.
And we're seeing, I mean, look what Georgia, the last couple of days, 12 hours, people waiting in line to vote. I mean, first of all, that's just unacceptable and voter suppression, especially minority communities. But the fact that people waiting in line for 12 hours motivates at least all of us to, hey, we can give a couple hours.
It should, yes. So here in Little Rhodey, today was the governor's press conference, and we are not on a good path as far as our numbers are concerned. We are trending up. We have increased hospitalizations. And so basically what the governor said was it's not K-12, it's not congregate care, and it's not even really universities and colleges, but it's those small unstructured family or small group of friends events that we're doing that are unmasked and not distanced. Larry, we've been talking about this for 24 weeks. And so students and teachers don't live in school buildings. They go back out into the community. So while we may not have those numbers right now, we are seeing the staffing shortages because of quarantine. Last week, we asked for, a little relief for our educators and our ESP, where, can we maybe not have them draw down on their sick days for mandated quarantines? and we really need some relief in the eval portion, which we'll get to in a second. But what are your thoughts hearing the numbers and knowing that we're already staring down staffing shortages?
The numbers aren't surprising if you look at the rest of the country. And I mean, I think Rhode Island's done a very good job over the last 7 months compared to a lot of states, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to have problems. Right now, our numbers are about where Wisconsin was a month ago. And if you look at where Wisconsin is today, they are in a mess. The projections are that the numbers are going to continue to increase. Flu season's coming. As you mentioned, the staffing shortages, and we can talk about this too, but teachers and staff are stressed to the max. And with flu season and people tend to be sicker in the wintertime, we need to start planning for what a month from now looks like and what 2 months from now look like. And I know districts had to come up with several plans, but we're not going to be able to just and be able to flip a switch to go from in-person to virtual, et cetera. It's not quite that easy. And we're going to need some transition time. And quite frankly, anything we can do to make teachers' lives easier, our ESP members' lives easier, and frankly, administrators' lives easier too. One would be evaluations, not having to worry about sick time if you're out with COVID. And quite frankly, if I was, if I was king, I'd, start giving some Fridays and Mondays off. People need time. And I thought a lot about this today. Teaching and working in schools is very difficult anyway. And I know that people in the governor's office and the Department of Ed are working unbelievable hours, and they're working extremely hard. But I'm going to say this. I can't think of too many things unless maybe people in a hospital, nurses and doctors on the front line, and people on the front line, EMTs, et cetera. But teaching children, and right now trying to teach in person, virtual, and then students who are out because they're sick, virtual, who were in person at the same time, trying to balance all that is as stressful as any job. And I worry sometimes that the people making the decisions don't realize that, and they need to. And they need to listen to people on the ground. And when people in the classroom say, hey, we need a break, or we need this, or this would make our life easier, it's not because they don't want to do it. If teachers, they give 150% all the time. They need some relief. And it's going to get worse. So let's plan on that. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that it all goes away in a month, but that's, right. I wish I was going to be in the Olympics next summer too, but that's not going to happen. So, seriously, let's deal with reality. And the reality is it's going to get worse before it gets better.
We are, later on, we're going to talk to Sarah Markey, who headed up the Mental Health Summit. This year was the third year. And then she's going to talk a little bit about a new program that we're instituting next month. But, you talk about the stress levels. We're doing everything we can in every channel that we can to make sure that our members are heard and that their issues are being taken care of. Larry, this past week, we got an email from a member that I kind of can't shake, and I posted it on our social media because I know that this member it's a K-12 member who is at her brink. I mean, everybody is stretched so thin, and this person did say in her email, I am stretched to the max. And her phrase was, are they trying to break us? Which breaks my heart, makes me want to, work harder for these folks. So I just, the fact that the stress levels are so high, and we know that there's just one thing that could really give folks relief, and that's postponing teacher evals.
That and not having to worry about sick days. If you just take those two things, it's one less thing you have to worry about. So when you're stressed out 120% and you can only make it 100%, and there's no reason, there's just, okay, evaluations are important. We know that. We want teachers to be evaluated. We want everyone to be evaluated, but not right now. That should not be a priority. It should not even be an issue. and at some point we can talk about statewide testing too. That should not be an issue. Let's focus on making sure that teachers have the time, they're energized to do the job. Let's make sure students are getting the education they need, not taking time out to be tested, not having to worry about because their teacher's so stressed out, getting ill because of it or getting sick, flu season. They're, we're hearing in Providence anyway, where, you can't get substitutes, etc. So let's make it easy for easier, not easy, because this is not easy, easier for everyone involved by taking out the things that we can remove, and you can put them back in for next year. Sure, testing is important and evaluations are important, but not this year.
I do want to read this question that we received from Angela in North Kingstown, because she highlights the very specific things that would be involved in an eval that really can't even happen. So if you'll bear with me, because we kind of did answer it, but I just want to let her know that I'm hearing her. In these past months, teachers have made adjustments, modifications, accommodations, and in some cases have changed their entire way of delivering and assessing instruction. Why is RIDE not doing the same for teachers with the evaluation tool? If administrators follow the RIDE rubric, no one would get an effective score because none of those things can be seen during a pandemic. There is no group work, no collaboration among students, no sharing, no pretty classroom environment, etc. As for observations, there's nothing to observe because my district is using the AB day hybrid for high school students. Every other day, I have no students in front of me. And because my district is putting year-long core courses into one semester, SLOs are near impossible to write and get approved. What can we do? Thank you for all of your hard work and advocacy during this impossible and this stressful time.
I think here's what we can do. Let's trust the teachers and the staff and the administrators in the building. Let them do the job. And if, I was a high school, middle school history teacher, I'm a high school history teacher. I have to do virtual one day, in person, whatever. Trust me to do the job. That's what we should be doing because, again, it could change next week. And like we said, a month from now, we could be from in-person to virtual because of the numbers. So how do you do SLOs? How do you prepare for all that? Trust the people in the building to educate the students, and they'll reach out. Also, if they don't worry about valuations, it gives them more time to reach out to families, help students that are in need, instead of sitting down and worrying about, the evaluation and putting all that time and effort into that. How about really reaching out to families and educating the children, which should be our number one and only priority right now.
Absolutely. We're going to talk a little bit more about the students in need with Val Staples from the Children's Fund in a little bit. But that's all I really have. I mean, we're still working and pushing for those very specific things, postponing evals, talking about, we're keeping an eye on those mandated quarantines and how that's affecting staffing. Last week we did call for, a reevaluation of, or at least I hate to use the word task force, but bringing people together at least and talking to educators and ESPs about how this is impacting the day-to-day in the school building. Because if the adults can't be there to teach, guess what? We're going to have to fix things and move to distance learning. Because as I said last week, I think, high case numbers is not the only reason why you'd have to close a school and move to distance learning. If you don't have anybody there because they're all in quarantine, districts need to know that they're going to have the backing of the governor, and the RIDE and whoever is not going to shame them for closing.
And if you have to be quarantined for up to 24 days, think about that. It's, today's what, October 14th, 24 days from now, okay, you're into November. And if you're quarantined the 1st of November, it's after Thanksgiving. So you're just talking about, you're out for almost a month. So how's that feasible?
Yeah. And not even sick and using your sick days. It's again, added stress to folks who are doing an awful lot of juggling already.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add, because as you said, we're going to have Sarah and Val on, is just, I want to thank our staff too. It's just doing a terrific job through all of this, and to all our local leaders and our members. But as you said, our job is to try to do everything we can to help them, and we are. But we can use a little help here from the governor and Rye, and it seems like it's a pretty easy lift to say no evaluations, or, okay, we're not going to use sick time for anything COVID related. That could seem too difficult.
Right. Joining us right now is a familiar face to many of our members. Val Staples is my dear friend and colleague and the coordinator of the NEARI Children's Fund. Welcome, Val.
Thanks, Stephanie. Larry, thanks for
Hi,
having
Val.
me.
Great to have you.
Thank
I'm
you.
so glad you're here to talk about, one of my favorite things that we do, NEARI Children's Fund, which, can you just talk a little bit about the Children's Fund? I know it was put in place in 1985, and just talk a little bit about some of the things that the Children's Fund does.
Sure. The Children's Fund, like you said, was established in 1985, and we've been assisting needy kids in our locals ever since. All a NEARI member has to do basically is just give us a call, shoot us an email, give us the circumstances, and usually the situation is taken care of that day or shortly thereafter, whether it be they need food or clothing or a little rental assistance or help to pay an electric bill, lots of different requests.
So usually at this time, you would be mobilizing and gearing up for the holidays with the annual Gingerbread Express, which is, we do Gingerbread Express where, and I'll let you explain this in a minute, but the fact that we do the debate day, Gingerbread Express, is the best day of the year.
It is.
Can you just talk about a little bit about Gingerbread Express?
Sure. This year would have been our 31st year doing the Gingerbread Express. Which is awesome. We've made so many kids happy over all of those 30 years. It's incredible, actually, to think back on all of that. But anyway, the Gingerbread Express couldn't happen without all our NEARI friends and members. Absolutely. They're the ones that take out a little gingerbread cutout that has the child's name, clothing size, all the particulars for that one child. They take it, they go and shop for the child, they wrap all the gifts, they bring it back to NEARI, or I go and pick it up, and then they all get delivered to the William DeBay School on a special gingerbread day. Other than that, we also do kids in our locals as well, but we do all 450 kids at the debate school every year.
So we're talking about thousands of kids that we are giving gifts, warm coats, hats, clothing, and toys and stuff like that.
Yes.
So this year, because of COVID-19, sadly, we cannot safely do Gingerbread Express at the debate school like we've done for the last 31 years, or 30 years, I should say.
Unfortunately, that's correct. It just saddens me that we can't do it, but after all the consideration and all the thinking, there's no way that we can safely pull it off, truly. And that would be even if the schools were open,
Right.
the week before Christmas, which that's
We'll
doubtful.
see.
Yes.
Yeah. So people who are hearing this, whether they're members or not, are going to say, how are we going to help these kids or these families as we progress through the holidays? So tell me what you have in mind and what you're hoping for.
Okay, because we cannot actually fill out the gingerbreads and do all the particulars for each kid like we've done for the past 30 years with COVID, that's just impossible for us to be able to do. The debate school we're not going to be able to do, but we want to still be here for our locals. And many of them do their own gingerbreads. They've been doing their in-house gingerbreads for years, and hopefully they can find a safe way to take care of their kids and their locals. But what I was thinking is for all the others that may fall through the cracks, that don't have anybody to sponsor them, we could be here. The Children's Fund / Gingerbread Express could be here if we've got members and sponsors, rather than taking a gingerbread cutout, send us monetary donations and gift cards that we can give to families that they can purchase for Christmas.
So I love that. I think that's a great idea, because as soon as I heard that we weren't able to do Gingerbread Express, I immediately thought of all of those kids. How are we going to help these families? So if someone wants to make a donation or a sponsorship of some kind, what is the best way for them to reach you?
The best way they can reach me is vstaples@neari.org. They can also, well, that's probably best for now. We're going to also be hopefully coming up with a flyer that we'll be sending out to local presidents and all member emails. So all the pertinent information will be on the flyer. You should be looking out for that soon in an email that Stephanie does, those fabulous all member emails. She'll include it in that for you. And it'll be easy enough. I'm not sure if our donate button is working on our website. If it is. Yep. Then that would make it super easy for members and friends to donate. Just go to www.neari.org and you can donate there.
So what I'll do is I will put the website, which is neari.org/children's fund, and that will take you right to the Children's Fund page. You can read up a little bit about some of the things that Children's Fund has done in the past, which is just quiet, beautiful work to help kids and their families. And there is a donate button there, so folks can donate right to the Children's Fund, and that will allow Val to distribute that money to the folks who need it.
And I would just add, I was actually around when the Children's Fund started 35 years ago, involved. So to see it grow and to continue for over 3 decades in the Gingerbread Express. And I want to thank everyone who's contributed over time, because the difference that you have made in the lives of children. And right now we know that things for a lot of children are very difficult. So whatever you can donate or give, just reach out to Val, because she'll make it work. So yes.
Yeah, I was going to say, under Val's stewardship, it's amazing what a tight ship she runs.
And if I could just add one more thing, besides gingerbread, I'm here. You can call me anytime if you have a student that's in need. Today we did some eyeglasses, we did some food cards. So we're here. Shoot me an email. You can leave me a voice message at the office. It comes right through to my email. We're here and we're able to help. I know, especially, and there's so many families right now going through difficult, very difficult times. I'm hearing it on a daily basis, but I'm hopeful the donations will come in so we can keep doing what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Val.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate
Val.
you coming on.
Okay, take care.
Thank you. So I'm loving today because we have a couple of different guests, which the more voices we can hear from, the better. So right now we are joined by Sarah Markey, who is a colleague, a friend, one of NEARI's Uniserves. And if you know Sarah at all, she's an organizing dynamo. And I absolutely love that about her. I want to talk to Sarah a little bit about, obviously, mental health. Sarah, a few years ago, brought together some members centered on mental health. And from that was created the Mental Health Summit, which this year was its 3rd year, which is awesome. Virtually held this year, of course. But I'm hoping, Sarah, hi, by the way. Sarah, if you, and maybe Larry, because I know you're involved also with the Mental Health Committee and the Summit, talk a little bit about what that was like, how it went this year, because it was virtual, and some of the things that maybe you got out of that.
Well, I'll start, because Sarah gets all the kudos in the committee, who've just done a terrific job over the last 3 years. And we know that with students, the biggest issue facing them today is mental health, but it's not just students, it's their families, it's our members, it's everyone involved. And as someone once told me, everyone has mental health and we should all be talking about it. And taking it from someone that knows, sometimes we need to talk about it, and people need to reach out. And this summit was done virtually 2 weeks ago. It was terrific. We had great workshops, speakers, and the thing that I know Sarah and I have both said that we're most proud of is it ran from 9 to 3, and in those 6 hours, we only lost 2 people. So that just showed how how good it was. But Sarah and the committee have come up with some new ideas moving forward to help our members through this difficult time. Because if we don't take time for ourselves and our members don't get some time for themselves and their families, they're not going to be able to help their students and their jobs and everything else. So mental health now is more important than ever. So with that, I just want to thank Sarah for her leadership, and the committee just done a super job.
Sarah, can you speak to the summit and then maybe some of the things that are the concerns that you're seeing with the folks that are in the committee putting everything together?
Sure. I mean, in some ways, the committee of NEARI members, educators, Department of Health staff, paras, the desires they have of the mental health summit and the goals they have for it, in some ways it hasn't changed. There was really a crisis, I think, about mental health before the pandemic. It's just sort of escalated or exacerbated by the pandemic. And so when we planned for this mental health summit, we did really want to think about, how could change, what might have changed, what needs might be changed for our members who attend that would impact the content of the summit. And so we did a little bit more on anxiety, for example, than we have in the past. Had a great presentation on that, and some good trainings on, how do you build relationships with parents in a virtual environment or a semi-virtual environment. And so that was really good. And I think, it was tricky to figure out how to do it virtually, because part of what has been kind of the heart of the summit is not just the professional development, but the advocacy, right? So 3 years ago, we created really like a platform on mental health that educators and school support staff were saying, we need these things in our schools for students to be able to learn and also well cared for. So I think it was in that vein. And then I think the other thing is, in this moment, we're asking a lot of teachers and school staff, we're asking a lot of school staff. And, there is this concern that people won't take care of themselves and practice self-care. And so after the mental health summit, the planning committee meeting met, we met and we said, what are ways that we should be supporting our members going forward, right? And so what they came up with was this idea of Wellness Wednesdays, where November through January, we identify topics that are really just about people taking care of themselves, having a little bit of fun and building community. And so that is, for example, we're kicking it off on November 11th at 3:00 with our colleague, Pat Crowley, who's going to be leading a yoga session for educators. And then after that, we're looking for other members who might have a skill from knitting to crafting to creating art projects that want to, work with us and put together a Wellness Wednesday event. And so they're really light, fun activities, really focused on self-care.
I love this. And because Larry, we have talked about this week after week after week, the fact that in emails that we're getting of our folks who are just stretched so thin. We talked about it last week as well. The stress levels of our members, they're juggling like everybody else, but the level of uncertainty is just exacerbating those stressors.
It's not sustainable what most people are doing, and that includes not only our members, teachers, and our ESP, also our administrators as well. I mean, they are stretched from early morning to late at night, trying to balance the email we saw the other day, which I thought was just, from someone who I personally know who's, never complains about anything, but just saying, the evaluations on top of everything else. What were they trying to do? Break us? So it's not sustainable. I mean, you're trying to teach in person, virtually, and students who are out absent for a couple of days who were in person now virtually, trying to do that all at the same time. It's almost an impossibility, and to do it day after day, and with numbers climbing and staffing shortages we're talking about, it's something has to give, and we need to plan for that. We just can't keep moving ahead with everything, evaluations, etc. So this is perfect. Take an hour out of your time. I'm trying to figure out how we can do a virtual mountain bike ride, but people people need to take time for themselves, and that's what causes, more mental illness, more stress. Think about people, not being able to spend time with their families or their children, et cetera, because they're working so hard on their jobs. So we need this. And I thought those ideas and the idea of Wellness Wednesdays the committee came up with were just terrific.
I love it. And last week, Larry, we talked about the fact that we're doing everything we can through every channel we can think of to work with our members, help our members. And the fact that, Sarah, that you're working with our folks to try and really, cultivate some ideas for some self-care. I love that. And it's really just another avenue that we can use to work with our members and help them out.
I think that's exactly the idea. I think that given the nature of the professions of our members, they are very giving people. And it almost feels like we have a responsibility to remind people to take care of themselves.
Yes.
And one factor that, the planning committee really considered is the holidays may be very different for people this year. In the middle of, in winter, we have these moments where we can actually celebrate, but people might not be able to see some family members, or, mental health concerns like depression or anxiety might be exacerbated. And so we just wanted to create some space for people really to practice self-care.
I love it. Thank you so much for coming on to talk with us. I know you have a lot on your plate. You've got a couple of other irons in the fire. Can you talk about that at the moment?
I have a list, yes. So,
of course you do.
I'm actually really, really excited about this. So on October 21st, we have Rebecca Collins-Given, who is an editor of this book called Striking for the Common Good. And it was written about the movement across the country starting in 2018 of educators saying, like, we are going to fight for our students and we are going to do whatever it takes, right? From West Virginia, Arizona, et cetera. Mm-hmm. So she's going to do a discussion about the book with any of our members who want to join us. And the other thing happening next week, I won't bore you with like the whole entire list. The other thing happening next week is Val Lawson is chairing a new women's caucus, and they're meeting, I think next Wednesday, to really talk about some of the more important women's issues that surface in education or in unions. And so those are two cool things that people can check out.
Awesome. So all of that information is in the NEARI calendar, which is at neari.org/calendar. And I'll make sure to put that link in the bottom of the video so that folks can know either it's a registration or it's just a direct email to Sarah to let her know that you want to participate. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thank you both.
All right, Larry, that's episode 24. Thank you for joining me again this week.
Thanks again for the 23 previous episodes. Hopefully when this is all through, we can do, our last episode will be highlights.
Oh, I know. Maybe even in person in the same room.
Yeah, yes, that would be nice. And I think that goes to the mental health part too. Just not for someone who, I don't mind being alone and reading a book every once in a while, but boy, seeing the neighbors out when you're out walking the dog or just seeing people is pretty nice. So it'll be nice to get back, and people are really, really suffering because of it. And that's where the mental health comes in. So yes, anything we can do. And again, thank to all our members out there for everything they're doing, because without you, education would not be happening, and a lot of students would be falling behind and left out. So thank you for everything you do.
Yes. All right. Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Steph.